Hello, I'm Stephanie Strange. Thanks for tuning in, where we talk about the strange, unexplained, and pop culture. And today I have a special guest with me today, someone that I've followed for a while, and I'm very inspired by actually. Like I've seen your just like seeing your content transform and evolve. Like I'm very inspired by it. So I'll hand it off to you, Chris. Tell us a little
I
bit about
appreciate
yourself.
it.
Yeah.
My name is Christopher Kiely. I am a creator on TikTok and YouTube. I focus mostly on creepy pastas, any true crime, movie reviews, things like that.
So think I'll make sure to add like your socials on the description too, so like people will know where to find you.
Okay.
Because people should have. I always like refer to your stuff when people ask me questions. I actually send like your content to people. I'm like,
Oh,
hey,
I
this.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll definitely add your stuff to the description
Yeah, this
below.
is this is my this is my first ever thing like this.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do more podcasting just because like for a while, like all the topics that we touch base on, like you said, creepypasta, urban legends, all the creepy stuff online. I feel like there's so much like conversation you can have with it. And sometimes like shorts don't give us the time to dive into
No,
that.
there's not enough time because the attention span is so low now that you
Yeah.
can't even if you post over 30 seconds, it's not going to get any views. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so then we'll be talking about, so that now I'm going to segue into this. Like, we're going to be talking about a topic that I have avoided for such a long time because it scares me. Like, it does. Like, I'm a scaredy cat, surprisingly, when it comes to
Mhm.
like video games and some scary movies. We'll just say that.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of jump scares. Like, after a while, I get annoyed. I'm like, oh my God, stop it. I just want to get through this.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but then recently I did like a deep dive into it and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more to like this game. And it's the game is Sad Satan. And I just wouldn't dare to play it. Like I said, there's just crazy things about it. What about you? Like, have you ever played the game? Do you play games like this or like not exactly this, but like scary games?
I play scary games when I have time. The scary game I played was it's not really super scary, but there are a ton of jump scares. The newest Five Nights at Freddy's. I played it in the dark, and there were a few jump scares in there that actually got me. It was actually really fun. I've never played Sad Satan though. I know I don't know. I don't even know. It's
Do
it's
you
it's so weird.
I know, like I don't know if I could dare to play it, but like you said you're playing like these games, right? Do you like turn off the lights and stuff? I think the last game I played was Amnesia, like that indie game, and became popular.
Yes. Dude, funny fact, the last game I played was I forget what it's called. It's a simulation where you're a kid and you're home alone and you go to sleep and you wake up and someone broke into your house.
Oh
And
my
you have to
God.
like maneuver your way through the house while they're in like certain parts of your house. I played it in the dark. I think it's on my YouTube channel. The intro is so funny. I jump, my camera falls, the whole setup just falls over. I got that scared.
I'll have
I
to
it
watch that
was
one.
it was insane.
Yeah, I can't. I again, I played Amnesia, and that was like an indie game, like back in the early 2000s. And I remember people were like, "Turn off the lights," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
brave. I can do this." And no, I can't.
It's all the soundtrack. If the you got to think about it. If the sound is off, you can watch any movie, you can play any game. There's no problems.
Yeah,
It's all that build up.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I feel like that's kind of why this game also just hit that level of virality too, was like the way that it plays with your senses. And we'll definitely touch
Hmm.
more into that. So like now we're gonna segue a little bit into that. And I just want to kind of give a warning for people that are listening, because this does deal with like very heavy topics. So viewer discretion is strongly advised. We will be talking about child pornography and I'll reference it as CP, and of course like morbid things and images and all of that stuff. So if you do find that triggering, I just don't advise you tune into that. So um yeah, basically Sad Satan is like an online urban legend. And I think I don't know, I feel like it's interesting that it is called an online urban legend, but it is that. And people say that it's a lot to do more about the creator more so than the game itself. I think that's kind of where it falls into that urban legendary type of thing. I don't, and I think that's true. I think that like I was more fascinated on like what transpired
Yeah.
transpired more so than the actual game, because it's pretty straightforward, and we'll definitely touch base into that. So before we get into that though, like I want to get into a couple of things that I found interesting, and I guess there is misconceptions to it. Do you know like the difference between like the dark web and the deep web? Like I didn't.
From my understanding, the dark web is just like the normal stuff. You can buy the weapons, the drugs, stuff like that. And the deep web is where you get all the CP, the gore videos, hackers.
Mhm.
You can hire people to kill people, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, and that's the thing too. I was like, oh, I thought the whole deep and dark was all just bad. But then like, if you think of it, like deep web is stuff that you don't index, right? Like
Hmm.
your iCloud, stuff what's in your iCloud or your email, like that's like considered like the deep web stuff that is not indexed by like the clear internet or the clear web,
Yep.
which is like Safari, Chrome, internet. Is Internet Explorer still a thing? I don't know.
I feel like people do use it. People use that, and they use the other one on your computer that automatically comes downloaded on it.
Yeah,
It's
Safari,
weird.
and then like
Yeah.
and then I heard people talk about DuckDuckGo, right? Is that another one? I don't even know anymore.
It's something like that. No, they use I don't even know. Yeah,
Like
no, Internet Explorer is a real thing. My computer has it auto downloaded, so
okay, sorry, I'm like I have not. I just use Chrome. I'm like, is that
I've always just used Chrome.
sorry, all other internet providers, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So then like with that being said, do you think there's a need for things like that though, like the dark web? Because I've heard people say that they use like advocacy for that. Like there's people that try to do humanitarian causes, but I hear more bad than good. So I don't know, but that's
it's.
just
I feel like it takes a certain kind of person to go that far
yeah.
because you need to kind of know what you're doing to an extent. Because you click one wrong link and your life is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You click the wrong thing, something pops up on your computer, you pop for something, the FBI's at your house the next day.
Yeah. No, that's a good
So
point.
I feel like you have to kind of know what you're doing to an extent. I used to go on there when I was younger, on the dark web, not the deep web when it was very popular when I was in like middle school and stuff. But I never saw anything half as crazy as the stuff that people talk about.
Okay, so that brings me into my personal story. I've never done anything on the dark web or deep web. I just put in dare. I'm a millennial, so
Mm,
I grew up in a time where like the internet was just there was I remember like on I used to use Yahoo and instead of Google, and this is like before like Google was like the main thing to search. And
mm,
I recall that like people kept talking about what was the website? It was like oh gosh, but the point of the matter is that I would run into websites where it was like people getting decapitated by helicopters. And I was in middle school.
bestgore.com.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Or like Rotten. Was
Yeah,
Rotten?
Rotten. Yeah, Rotten doesn't exist anymore. Bestgore.com actually is still up.
Oh God,
It's
yes.
still up.
Oh no. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like middle school Stephanie, here I was on Yahoo, just like searching things. And like people that would just talk about things. And then I'm like, this can't be real. And then I think like after a month of like casually going on it, I realized that this was real. And my stomach just started to like, I had knots and I just felt nauseous. Because I'm in middle school, like it takes a minute sometimes for like that to really sink in, I feel like.
Oh
At
yeah,
least,
you have no idea what's going on.
yeah. So I was like, what the heck? And it gets even weirder. So I used to work at a small mom and pop shop
Mm,
and in like a small town in Minnesota. And like the owner's husband, he came into the shop one day and I was telling him like what I had just like run into. This is like a couple of years ago. We were talking about just like random stuff on the internet. And so this is like after the fact, like years after the fact. And he's like, oh yeah, so if you like that stuff, there's actual VHS tapes and DVDs you can buy of people actually being killed. And I'm like, why would you know that? Like that stuck with me,
that's really really weird.
right? Like
That's really weird. Having DVDs, I think having like a home collection of things is like way far past the saving threshold.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And
That's just
yeah, so like I mean, of course, like I'm kind of segueing away off the internet, but the fact that like people would actually make DVDs off it or like VHS or whatever it is that people were still using. And I was just so when that guy told me that, like I always think back on that, to be honest with you. Like I think back on that time in my life of like he was just so open to tell me that. Like just he was so confident,
yeah.
so
That
peppy.
that's terrifying.
It was yeah, it was very
Yeah.
terrifying. So yeah, I hope I'm sure you'll never listen to this, but yeah, it kind of you give me the weird vibes with that after a
No,
while.
absolutely.
And then like fast forward, I went on a road trip. So I used to live in Minnesota, but like I mentioned, my family lives in LA and I moved to LA recently. So we would visit during the holidays, like Christmas, sometimes Thanksgiving out here. And I remember we went to like a truck stop and I saw some of those at a actual like gas station out in the middle of
Wow.
nowhere. Yeah, yeah. So I feel like early in that time, I don't know if it was like people felt like they could do that and get away with it. But now with like the internet and like all these streaming services, a lot more people on the internet having accessibility to the internet, I think it's become more of a like, hey, like caution, a word of caution of like, these things do exist and people have been doing
Yeah.
this for years. Do you remember the thing on TikTok where like I forgot what it was, but someone got decapitated? I had a mutual mind log off for a month because of it.
Um, I don't, I don't remember. I really don't. I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah, so it quickly got taken down, but it kind of brought up the conversation of like, because of course we have things on the dark web where you can see disturbing footages like that, but then like it
Hmm.
started to leak into like TikTok,
The
Twitch,
service web. Yep.
yeah, and like apparently, so I think this was last summer, but I
Okay.
logged in and I kept seeing people talk about like this footage that it was like a cartel and they had decapitated someone.
Yes. Yes. I did see that.
Yeah, I did not see the
Yes.
footage. Thank God I did not. I actually was so
Uh,
scared. I'm like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. But I had a mutual, he made a video and he was like, just like the look on his face, he was like very
yeah.
disturbed. He's like, I'm logging off for like a month. And he did. I didn't see him make content for a while. And I was like, oh my God, I hope I don't see this. I hope I don't see this.
So I feel like it's certain genres of people that are desensitized to certain things. So
Hmm.
people like us, we talk about scary stuff, morbid facts, horror and stuff like that. I feel like we are more like the shock factor is not there anymore. We
Yeah.
grew up kind of in a time where it was like, I'm 24 now. So growing up, we saw the dark web, the cartel videos, the introduction of being able to post anything on Twitter. And you
Yeah.
just go on Twitter and you see stuff. I mean, you see things happen in everyday life now, mass tragedies, and you can see it right on Twitter for everyone to see within 5 minutes of it happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody, I think that was the first real introduction to the surface web, seeing things like that.
Yeah, actually, now that you brought that up, that makes me think about that because I feel like the internet at its infancy, well, I say like the 90s, early 2000s. I feel like at that time it was like so much exploitation of like a lot of gruesome crap. And
Yeah.
it makes me think about like humanity as a whole, right? Like there was like a philosophy, like a podcast I stumbled upon. It was like about philosophy, and people
Mm,
invest more into like villainizing things or showing disturbing things and actually bringing peaceful matters. You know, I don't know if that makes
yeah,
sense.
of
Like,
course. Yeah.
I was like, that's so true because we are always trying to like point out disturbing things about humans and one another rather than
Mm.
like, how can we solve and bring world peace? And then,
No, why would we want that?
yeah, I don't mean to get philosophical in it, but it just made me think of how like the internet at its infancy really kind of showed the disturbing side of humanity without
I
real.
think, yeah, I think it's that people thought that things like that existed, but they didn't know that it truly existed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they had to see those shock videos to know that people are really getting decapitated in other countries. This is things that are happening. And
Yeah.
now it's so mainstream. Everybody sees it. It's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And is it gotten to a point now where like I was watching a thing on how these with I think shortly after the whole thing with TikTok and that video resurfacing, and there's even like that
Mm,
girl that got shot like doing a TikTok dance.
yes.
Um, like I think they're trying to crack the code of like how can we like fix the algorithm where it automatically takes these things down because we don't really want to hire people to watch these things and report. Like, you know what I mean? Um,
I think that TikTok has a huge issue with the algorithm. Personally, I am a,
yeah.
a victim of it, and I know you probably are too.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you talk about, you have to say certain things. I just
Mhm.
want the algorithm to be able to learn to be fair when we're discussing true crime. I can't upload true crime right now. If I upload a true crime video, it's getting taken down.
Oh gosh.
And
Oh
my
my God.
views have been cut drastically in half since my last takedown. So if they were to crack down, then they should be able to. But there were videos when those two kids were dancing in the bathroom. This happened maybe 6 months ago. two young kids dancing in the bathroom. One of them had a gun. They were just messing around making a TikTok. It misfired. She ended up hitting the other boy that she was with, and then she ended up hitting herself as well. And they were just making a TikTok. And this was
Oh,
posted all over. This was all over TikTok for probably 3 to 4 days, every scroll.
I
But
can't.
that was still up.
Yeah, and
They have to find a way.
yeah, no, they do. And I'm glad that you brought that up because yeah, so that's what they were trying to say is like because we're now in an age where like aside from that there's mass shootings in schools and people are recording things and stuff like that. So it's like how do we like engineer an algorithm or a software that can crack things down when we are seeing very disturbing things like the two children or that kid or that decapitation thing, like how can we filter that out without like actually going too hard on some other users and accounts. There's also another
Absolutely.
person I know, and she was posting on Instagram how, like, on TikTok, a lot of her stuff is getting filed for nudity, which she doesn't do that at all. It's all about like she's My Bloody Galantine. She does like she
Okay.
has like all the Ouija boards in her
Okay.
house.
Hmm.
And she has like a coffin, but it's like an old coffin, so more like old macabre, like history stuff.
Hmm.
And she's getting flagged for nudity, and it's like, whoa, what the heck is happening? So yeah, it's weird because like I think there's a power in educating people about like true crime, scary stuff. I feel like scary is empowering for people. I think people undermine it. It's like, no, it's actually to empower you to be educated and like be stronger and resilient. And I think that's why I'm very drawn to that rather than like the happy
Hmm.
fluff stuff. That's just me. That's just my why I do
Yeah,
what I do.
absolutely.
Um,
Well, that's why when I post, I like to talk about true crime stuff or how to, a case that happened so that someone, it doesn't happen to them.
yeah.
Somehow something was taken out of context or something, and then bam, it's gone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I think there's a reason why we do it. And I feel like it's an undermined community at times because you're right, it gets flagged. And it's like, no, like, how can the algorithm perfect itself so it's not flagging people wrongfully and actually getting the videos that actually need to be flagged down. Um, anyway, so yeah, the reason why I brought this up though is because now we're gonna go back in time where
Hmm.
there's less of this. So um yeah, so Sad Satan came into existence in June of 2015. Basically, there was like a YouTube channel called Obscure Horror Corner, run by this person named Jamie. So I'm going to reference that. And I'm actually going to say AOHC because I feel like I'm going to stutter if I say Obscure Horror Corner. It's like a tongue twister. So OHC or Jamie, so they were running this account and they talked about how like they were on the dark web one day and this link popped up. There's also like a Twitter. He has a Twitter on there too with like all these games that they were playing or some whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I'm nothing too interesting, but if people want to look at their Twitter and YouTube, go for it. Um, but yeah, so like at that point or in this point in time, people are just kind of like, okay, this guy just got a random link and started uploading this scary game online. And so basically, Jamie said, I downloaded it a month or so ago and started playing it. I call it Sad Satan because the game was down, because that's what it's called, or that's what he assumed it was called, because there wasn't like a title screen or anything suggesting a name. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Like, why would you just download a link? I don't know. Anyway, that just gets to me, but um and so they said that they couldn't finish playing the game because they felt very uneasy feelings and the game was just really bizarre. And then I guess like a notepad file popped up with like a bunch of gibberish and the game was deleted. Did I read that correctly, right? I think that's like what he was saying.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that every time he would play it, he would get like this weird string of notes on his notepad, and there would always be like a 666
Yes.
every single time. And yeah, that would freak me out. I mean, it probably came with malware, to be honest. I mean, you download anything from the dark web, it probably isn't coming with nothing.
Right.
If that's where he downloaded it from.
Exactly. Yeah, if because we're gonna get into the
If
controversy.
if
And so then like later on, then like this person called ZK post on 4chan, and this is like where the rivalry thing happens.
hmm
Um, and he basically, let me open up the link real quick. And um he basically said that like the link that obscure horror corner Jamie posted is not the real game, and he's a coward for like not posting the
Mm-hmm.
authentic file. But then like Jamie revealed, or OHC revealed, that because like the game contained like CP and other like morbid things, that he posted like the more modified, cleaner link to it. Which then there's a controversy on the link though. I don't know if you remember hearing
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah, the link has a 7 in it, which or yeah, something like that. And according to people who do the dot onion links, it only goes up to like 4 or 5 or something like that. So it couldn't have been a real link.
Yes.
But the weird thing is, and I hope I'm not going too far, but the weird thing is that he had first said that he downloaded it from the dark web and there was no CP or gore when he first posted the thread. Then when people start coming at him about there being this Zeke guy or CK or whatever his
Yeah.
name is, um, he came out and called him a fraud because he's not playing the actual authentic game.
Yeah.
So which one is it? What did he modify the game or was there no CP? You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I still don't understand that.
That's what I was getting confused too, because like of the back and forth with it. And
Yeah,
and it's interesting because it's like, why would anyone want to download anything? Like we said, it's like it might have viruses, and that's really what happened. People were, I guess, like that ZK person posted the link and it actually was working. Like people were able to download the game, and people were talking about how like the game was running very sluggish on their computer. They started getting like all kinds of inappropriate things on their hard drive, like CP. Um, and I thought that that was just like, okay, well, yeah, that's what you get for downloading
yeah,
something
of
that
course, of
um
course.
and in a case, so like basically this is what someone said. Like there's a whole word, there's like obviously there's subreddit, there's 4chan, but there's also like WordPress blogs on it. So this person said, and I'll add the blog on the show notes, but basically she said that, and it's called, she was referencing a Reddit called subreddit meme and hoax. And so she said that people obviously got child abuse images dumped on their hard drive. And she said that my guess advice here is to not download anything with the name Sad Satan on it, because people are getting all kinds of inappropriate things, and you're getting pedophile, sex offenders, murderers, like graphic images and intense, like all these intense gore on your computer. And like what if someone like uses your computer, or what if like the FBI shows up at your house? You're
Hmm.
literally going to get like something, whether you go to jail, like not jail, but like yeah, maybe get fined something, who knows,
Probably,
investigation, yeah, I don't know.
absolutely.
um and that's what happened though. Like so there was another Reddit post that I found where people were like, oh well, the game developer of Sad Satan was actually arrested. A woman basically found her boyfriend had pornographic images on his phone or something, and
Hmm.
computer, and I guess it was due to that. And like
Interesting.
so I guess like they showed up and they arrested him, but then like but there's nothing on the article in itself talking about the game Sad Satan, just like alluding that that's what he was saying or
Yeah, that's
something
what
like.
he was. Okay.
Yeah, but like not the game developer, because I think that's still a mystery. So yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, oh.
There's like 4 or 5 different theories of who created the game, where the game actually came from. It's very weird. It's super
Yes.
weird.
So
I
let's get
wouldn't download it. I would never play it. It,
I
it
wouldn't.
doesn't look like a it doesn't look like an interesting game. There's really no substance to the game. You're just kind of walking through and getting teleported into, all of these different worlds and things like that, and your screen's all distorted. And then of course there's like the weird soundtrack and the CP and the gore and just a weird, weird vibe. I'm good.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it should have been enough for people to watch it on YouTube and be like, I don't know about that. Um,
People, they always got to try it.
exactly.
They've
Exactly.
always got to
So
try it.
but yeah, we can kind of dissect a little bit more of the contents of the game. I'm not going to go too detailed into it because I'm only going to go off like what I saw on YouTube. Not I wouldn't dare play it, like I said. But the game, like you're mentioning how it's more of like a simulation rather than an actual game, and it's
Yeah.
like mostly black and white. But there are flashes where of color, apparently, like of actual images, disturbing images come in through. Again, you can watch it all on that person's account on YouTube if you
Yeah.
want to know more about it. There's also like the Kotaku article that I will reference furthermore because it is like an interview with uh OHC Jamie. Um,
Mm,
but they said that the hallways and cells and the entire environment seem like something that like anyone can make in like 20 minutes, which is very important because when we talk about like the game and like the theories, like it does make sense at that point. Cause like when you think of a game, you're like, oh, it takes months. No, I mean,
hmm.
not for this game. This is very simple,
No, yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
pretty straightforward. And then there's like subliminal messages and strange sounds, and people have tried to like go as far as to like figure out where these images and especially the sounds are coming from because people are saying that the screams sounded like children crying, people getting killed. But there was someone that apparently dived into that, the sound at least, and they found that most of the stuff or like the sound was coming from like a horror site stock
Yeah, it was
footage,
like stock. It was like stock music or something like that.
something. Yeah.
I read that too.
Yeah, so like that makes me feel better, but I feel like in a time when like you're playing a game and you're just like seeing a bunch of flashes, you don't have time to process like what's real, what's fake. You're just in that simulation day that like for the lack of
Absolutely.
term. So like I guess my question in general or like something to ponder about is that, it for me it makes sense. I mean, right? You just said that it makes sense that people are just like not have time to really process what's going on. They're just seeing a bunch of disturbing images, and so of course they start to feel nauseous, sick, anxious.
Yep.
I think that's like a logical explanation of it. People definitely think that like the game could also be cursed or like because
I've heard that. Um, it's a really weird game.
yeah,
Like we said, there's no actual point of playing the game.
yeah,
You can watch it. There's no point to play it. There's no difference unless
yeah,
you want to dissect it further. But the subliminal messages that pop up, I know there's like one of like JFK right before he's assassinated.
mhm,
There's another one of two people. I don't know who they are, but they run a foundation to help protect children from abusive homes or something like that. But then
yes,
the guy who's in it is he was actually charged with like a couple of counts or accused of a couple of counts of having CP or
oh
assaulting children or something like that.
yeah.
Um,
It was like the image with like Margaret
yes,
Thatcher and Jimmy
yes,
Savile. Hmm.
yes,
Yeah, and it's like
exactly.
the National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. That
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
their
It's like ironic, I guess. It's like an ironic supposed image in there, and then there's also supposedly a sound of a slowed down, reversed Adolf Hitler speech as well throughout
yes.
the background of the game.
Yes. And I thought that was interesting, right? Because like, just kind of backpatting a little bit on like the children, like Margaret Thatcher and Jim, like even like the image of that guy, though his eyes look creepy. Like I saw
Yeah,
like maybe I mean I didn't know the whole thing. I saw the image, I'm like, what's this creepy thing? And then I read about it, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
oh my God. Um,
It's pretty bad.
and so like it brings the question though, like when I was mentioning how like you're seeing all these like flashes of imagery and hearing sounds. In a way though, it makes me think like back to now in the present where we're seeing so many shorts, like the short format, like on Instagram, YouTube shorts, TikTok. You experience so many emotions. Like you can experience 5 different emotions in 5 minutes. I don't know if you've ever been in it, like just scrolling through and you're like, oh my God, I feel like sad or I feel like reflective. And then you get off and you're just like, you hit a wall. I don't know how else
Yeah,
to describe.
you just don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
You've just seen so many different things. You could see like a puppy video, which makes you feel good, and then you see no, a horrible video, and
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, well, I just don't know what to do now.
Yeah. And I,
Absolutely.
so like, because I started to think about that, right? Where it's like this game is just like the atmosphere, the simulation, what you're seeing, like all these messed up things and the sounds. And I'm kind of like, no wonder people like I personally think I'm more on the logical side of things. Like I actually kind of shy away from like the supernatural element of the game just because it's to me, it's like, no, it's like a lot of just dark shit that you're seeing.
Yeah,
And I
it's
just,
too much.
yeah, I'm like, I don't know.
What it is it's unneeded.
Yeah. No,
Why do you need that? What do you gain from that? You know what I mean?
exactly. I just don't. I mean, and again, it takes me back to like how we were talking about how like in middle school you're seeing all these weird things, and now like when you look at it through like adult like lens, you're like, oh no, no, no.
Adult,
Yeah.
adult. We're
Well,
we're 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 just we're the same. We're just older.
exactly. Yeah. I think side note, I saw like the Avatar movie and I saw it like what over 10 years ago. The first
The Avatar movie, yeah, probably.
yeah. And I was like, whoa, I'm seeing it with like a different perspective in life. Than when
Avatar
I
is great. It's so
yes.
good.
Yeah. So like I think there's like a thing about seeing it in a different pair of lens in different time frames, I guess. But anyway, I don't mean to segue off that. It just makes me think of like how we process emotions and all of that. Um, Let me go back to my notes here.
We also just think differently as well. Like a super side note, we also think very differently now because we've seen so much stuff that it's kind of like impossible to think the same way we were thinking, a
Yeah,
year ago, even just a year ago, let alone being like 14.
yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, it's weird. It's weird growing up. It's really weird, especially with all of the stuff that we see nowadays. It just gets
Yes,
worse,
definitely, for sure. And like
progressively worse.
you were mentioning that there was a whole thing on like the Hitler speech. They also were saying that there's like the Stairway to Heaven though, right? I think you mentioned that too.
Yeah, from Led Zeppelin. Yeah,
And I guess like if you hear it backwards, people claim that it's like, here's to my sweet Satan, I guess is like
huh?
the messagery on it. Because I actually went back and I just went online and I just started searching like how people, I guess, process the like reversed Led Zeppelin song. Can't even talk right now. And it's saying like my here's to my sweet Satan, or there's no
Yeah.
sweet
Oh,
bitch.
here's to my sweet Satan, the one whose little path would make mad, whose power is Satan.
Yeah. So
Wow, that's
yeah.
weird. That's super weird. That's super
Yeah.
weird.
I'm just like laughing because it's kind of nervous how like the game is called Sad Satan. And then like you
Yes.
the song is saying here's to my sweet Satan. I don't know. I just think that I think again, I'm still kind of trying to shy away from the supernatural side, but I can see why people would be like, the game is cursed. The game is like it's literally opening up portals to like hell or the devil,
You
blah blah
never
blah.
know.
Yeah.
You really
Like
don't. There's a
so
lot of stuff we can't see.
yeah. Well, and so there's someone that I follow on TikTok and she's like a working witch. Like she does a lot of witchcraft and
Okay.
she's really knowledgeable and I love the stuff that she talks about. And I know she did a whole thing on like possession, demon possessions and like her belief system on it. And I know that like for a while there, when people were talking about being possessed by like a demon or anything like that, sometimes you have to like in a way, this is allegedly, I'm not like an expert, so I don't want people to get mad at me, but like some people are saying that like when you give homage to something very dark and evil and sinister, that does open up. It's like an offering to certain like low entities. Um, or just like when again like when you get a bunch of people in on something, kind of like how they say you can curse people with music. There's like people that have
Yeah,
had music like songs and people sing it and that's like aiding to that power of cursing and evil like
absolutely.
energy. So like it makes me think of that to some degree. I'm like, huh, I mean, if there is the supernatural element to it, a bunch of people downloading it, a bunch of people experiencing these emotions, what if there's like it's a weird
It's like an offering, like a weird, really weird offering.
yeah.
They say that the tongue is a very powerful a thing. When you
Mhm.
manifestation or when you speak things into existence, usually things like that happen. I was actually just watching a video, literally 5 minutes before we got on here, of this guy who was covering a local rapper that died recently. In one of
Mhm.
his songs, maybe a month or two before he died, he talked about how he barely, it was like barely escaped on the freeway or something like that. And then come to find out, he actually was gunned down on the freeway that he was singing about in his song.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah. I think that like there's a power in because I'm a big believer in manifestation though. Like that's definitely something that I definitely believe in. I know there's been times where like I'm watching a show and I'm like imagining certain things. And
Mhm.
here's a silly one. I remember I used to I was watching Desperate Housewives and like their like neighborhood is so pretty and it's like very cute and pretty. And I remember that I was looking for a house with my husband at the time and we got a house very similar to one of the houses on the show. And like I didn't think I was ever going to get a house like that, like a brand new house, like as a first
Yeah.
time home buyer I was like never. um So like little things like that, I believe in that stuff. I believe manifestation. So when people are singing things or like chanting things, that is a form of spell work to some degree. And like there's been people on Witch Talk that would argue that it is. And so when I think of like this game and I think about like the feelings that have been manifested around it, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I don't know, man.
It
Like,
could have been like you said, it could have been it could have been cursed, and the way for whoever made it or whatever to get what they want could have been making it something that it wasn't. You know, it goes viral, it gets thousands and thousands of people to download it. They
yeah,
end up getting nauseous, they end up getting sick, you know, they're more or less, you know, adding to the spell, I guess.
yeah.
And that's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, if I were to like look at it through that perspective, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's very, very plot. I could see
Makes
that.
absolute sense.
Yeah. So, okay, so now that like we brought up like the whole thing with like the game and just like a little bit about it, like I wanted to kind of segue a little bit into like just the controversy between like the ZK, Jamie,
Okay.
because it does get a little bit like back and forth.
It's a really weird back and forth because you got Jamie who I think I was reading that, you know, after the full game came out, the real game with the CP and the gory photos and all that other stuff, he, you know, his whole identity was taken out. You know, people knew
Mm,
exactly who he was. He started getting like questioned and interviewed and things like that. And he's like, I didn't make the game.
yeah.
But did he make the game? Is the question.
Did it? Yeah.
Because you can put, you know, how hard really is it to pretend like the game isn't yours, push it like the game isn't yours, put it on a subreddit where people are really hungry for something like that. People eat it up and then it blows up in your face. And
Yep.
now you're stuck between two identities and you don't, if you tell the truth, people hate you. If you don't tell the truth and go silent like he did, it's just a mystery and people still talk about it today.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, it's if that was his way of pushing something for attention or for a certain agenda, that was the way to go. I think to just ghost it all to ghost
Absolutely.
altogether, and now it's a mystery.
100%. Yep.
Um, because like so on one hand, right? Like it's he was on the yeah, it was on the subreddit. Yeah, that was an image from there. He says, I know everyone thinks I made sad Satan, but making a file containing CP and a virus is on a whole new level to that thing makes me so angry about this that my full name has been used by some people in videos about the game, and some of them are just made up write-ups. I'm not just an anonymous YouTuber now. My reputation is being damaged by this clone. So like okay, you know, that we see to some degree, it's like, okay, like his actions and him coming out of the woodwork before completely ghosting. Um, okay, I can buy his energy and like the way he was going about it, I guess. But then this is where like it gets really weird. Um, because then like people were saying things like, well, when people started diving into the files and like the address of the clone, like
Mm-hmm.
the original, I think that was like the clone file, the one that was like posted on
Yeah.
4chan. People are I guess like the address had Jamie's name on it, so that's like how could
Yeah.
he have gotten your name, like the name of your computer on this clone if that's not you? And then I guess he was saying like no, it I could have been framed, this is all like
Yeah.
made
But
up.
that's like such a stretch though.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big stretch. I mean, he wasn't like a huge YouTuber by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
And my so segueing a little bit farther back. So when he first posted the thread with the YouTube video, he said when someone asked, he had said that he found it on the dark web, I think.
Mm.
So he
Yeah.
said something like that. And then later on in an interview or something he posted or a response on a comment or Reddit, he said that a subscriber sent him the link,
Yes.
which doesn't make sense to me. And then on top of that, he put the link to the game in the description.
Yes.
But once he posted the video, the link didn't work anymore. And it was supposedly to the link of the non CP version, which would have been the clone because K, whatever this guy's name is, I don't remember his name, but
ZK thing or whatever.
CK, this guy, he had posted that Jamie was a fraud anyway and
Mm.
posted the original link to the game with CP.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's too well orchestrated to be two different people. You would have to be almost on the same exact page at all times with a post, with your comment, with the way you respond. You can't say the same words.
Yeah.
I think I personally, I think it's they're the same person. I think that I think he got caught doing something he shouldn't, because you when someone asks you, hey, does the game have CP, and you say no, but then the original file has CP, you took the CP out for YouTube, which means you have access to the files.
Yes. Yeah.
So you know what I don't know. That's my take.
No, no, no. And then it gets even weirder, right? Because like the one article that kept being referenced was the Kotaku article, because like that's the
Mm-hmm.
one where like people caught the gap. So like
Yeah.
apparently on this the Gamer from Mars YouTube channel, he kind of says, and I'll quote him. He says the discrepancy in Kotaku's article is that the time updated was at 1:45 p.m. at the time that like the person who wrote the article was living in San Francisco. So this would have been like Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific Standard Time. Yeah.
And but then like the update, which I guess in the East Coast side was 3:45, and the reason why that's important is because on 4chan the time was 1:27, a little over 2 hours. Oh, this would have been like 1:27 Eastern time,
Eastern Time. So it would
or
have been,
yeah, CST,
yeah.
a little over 2 hours before, right before Jamie's mention of the game in the article, containing the gore and the CP. And so then like I guess like the time, it's like how would, I guess the question is like how would they be posting on these blogs, and then like the article, does that make sense? Like it's to the, I guess like the
They're
time,
different time zones.
yeah, but they're
He's
like,
posting at different time zones.
yeah, but I guess like the time that like the article had all this information,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like the article was not posted yet, but yet he was talking as if the article was
The
posted a little
article's
bit.
already posted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess
That's a
that's,
little weird.
yeah, or something like that, if I'm
The
wrapping my head.
timing, the timing must have just been off.
Yeah, so I guess people got really upset about that, and he kind of just ghosted it. Again, if you go to
He just,
Twitter,
yeah, he just disappeared
yeah,
completely off the face of the earth. I think he was scared, uh if, police were going to get involved, or something like that.
yeah, I,
That's what I think.
because yeah, I mean, like as I was saying, like people, the FBI was showing up to people's houses
Hmm.
with like the CP and all of that,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
I,
Knocking on the door, your life is over pretty much.
yeah. So I
I
think
mean, you're
that,
caught with that stuff. It's over. It's not a game.
exactly, yeah, I think that people, I mean, if you especially with like the imagery that you were showing, or he was showing, right? Like it's like, yeah, I think I believe the same thing. I think that he was the one behind it, just because like people got so super detailed with it, like the fact that they looked up the address, the time slots on the article,
Yep.
and the and on the blog. I'm like, I mean, good for you guys. Like, oh my god, the internet never ceases to amaze me with their investigation skills.
When they
um
want something, they'll get it.
yeah, like I'm like, okay, I'm very impressed by that. But then
Yeah.
like it is just like, okay, to me it seems way more like he orchestrated it, because I don't
He
think,
had to have.
yeah, I don't know what the message was. I think in general too, though, like when I think about the contents of the game, like I know we talked about how it's disturbing and it's just like, why would you want to see those things? But part of me is like, okay, I think there was like a couple of other people mentioning that perhaps this whole game is probably trying to pull the veil behind like people in power that expose children and do these horrible things. I don't know though. I truly don't know how, because I don't want to dive into the. I don't want
I was gonna say
to.
that's a topic that it's a dangerous topic to unveil.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's a very dangerous topic to
Um,
unveil.
so like, and the only reason why I mentioned is because some people were trying to go down the rabbit hole with that, and I was like, I
Which
don't
is
know.
fair. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the subliminal messages themselves that are in it with the those two people that you named earlier, who run the
The National
tech.
Society.
Yeah, exactly. And then the guy is accused of like 30 counts of it,
Yeah.
or abusing children. It's ironic.
Yeah, and that's the part where I'm like, okay, when I think of what those people are saying, plus that, oh, maybe, but then like you don't need to be showing like CP to get your point across,
Absolutely.
you
No,
know?
that's too far. That's way far past the threshold of proving a point.
No, yeah, it is because I'm like, but I just don't think you need to show those things, like, because I
Never.
feel like
That's
that's
just
over sexualization. Like, I know, I mean, that's just more than sexualizing. That's just disturbing stuff to show to get your point across. And I'm just like, there's no need. I could never put something, if I'm doing true crime or anything like that, I don't need to show disturbing images.
no. There's no
You
point.
know,
They understand what happened. You're
yeah,
talking about it. It's already disturbing enough.
yeah,
You don't need to show like I don't know. There's been so many crazy cases that have been, the the kid who fell from the elevator last year, I think. Do you remember that? It was at an
no,
Orlando theme park.
I think I heard vaguely about that.
So he was I think he was like 13. It was really sad. He was 13, but he was a bigger kid. And I guess he went on the ride and he had been denied all day. All day they told him, you're too big to go on the rides, things like that. And they let him on and his chest piece didn't clamp fully.
Oh,
And
yes.
it goes up and he comes down. Now, TikTok was very iffy about that, but you don't need to show the video to get your point across.
Yes, I remember that
You
now.
don't need to show your point to get across. And that just goes to show, back to the whole, the internet's very desensitized. People are very into seeing crazy things because Twitter was flooded with that video. That video, that poor kid's family had to see that video posted all over Twitter.
Yes.
You could just talk about it. You don't have to show it.
Because
I don't
yeah,
want to
yeah,
see that.
exactly. Like I don't want to
I don't
see
want to see
that.
that.
Um, it's kind of like movies too, where they show, and I'm just gonna trigger warning, the R word,
Mm,
SA.
yeah.
But like I remember when I was, I think not in high, was in high school. I don't remember anymore. But this was like a while ago. The Last House on the Left, and I think this was a controversial movie because I think that it was like one of the longest like scenes in a movie where they were like a woman was being like essayed, like
Yeah.
raped. And I remember that I saw the scene, I saw the film, I think I saw this in theaters. And I was also just very much like, I don't know what, because that had no context to anything. And I think people were
There's no
upset about,
point.
yeah, there was no point of that. And I was like, okay, so this happened and I don't get it. And I don't get why I saw this. And, but you're right. It just goes to show that people do not care. They just want a shock factor. They just want you to just like
It's whatever
react to
gets the
it.
clicks.
Yep.
It's whatever gets the
And
clicks. That's the sad truth nowadays.
yeah, and like I think about it a lot, and I'm like, even now I'm looking at the ratings. I think it's like a 6 out of 10 or something like that.
What,
No,
Last House on the Left?
yeah, yeah,
It's an
this is
okay movie. I don't find it to be like the best
anything.
movie ever.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
either.
it's pretty good, but it's not like, oh, I need to watch that again. It's not like Unfriended.
Oh, yeah.
That movie is great.
Yeah, like no, sorry, I'm just thinking about the whole like scene on the. I'm still stuck on that. Like, why was this film doing that? But yeah,
Yeah.
there's like great films that you don't need to see horrific things like that to get the
Yes.
message across and still be scary.
Scary. Yep. Absolutely.
I haven't seen Unfriended though. I mean,
You've never seen Unfriended?
mm-mm.
Oh, it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. No plug. No plug. You have to watch it. It's like a group of friends. It's like this. It's like a group of friends are on Zoom. Well, it's Skype then, and yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. It's a fantastic movie.
All right, I'm bookmarking it right now as a reminder.
Yeah, yeah, you got to watch
Um,
that.
so yeah, I think that like in general, I feel like so back to like the a little bit of the sad Satan thing and like just the conclusion of things. I personally feel like I after reading about everything, I don't want to like be philosophical about the game because overall, the minute I heard CP, I'm like done. So I don't care what what the
Hmm.
message was. But what I will say is that I guess it makes sense why this game it remains an urban legend though, because of the fact of like the guy ghosting and just like letting it be a topic for conversation. I think if I go, yeah, I think I have the Reddit post, the community of subreddit on here.
Yeah,
I had it up, I think. And like I did see that it wasn't like recent, but it was fairly recent, like the last couple of years that people are still downloading the game, still talking about it. Like I what at this point, what it's been over like 5, 7 years now. Like I
yeah. I
think
think I
that's
think it was like
crazy.
2015 is when this whole thing started.
Yeah. And so I think in general, there's a power in like ghosting and like not giving people like the conclusion or closure for things. And I think that's kind of what makes this even more an interesting situation, right? Because it could be very tragic, it could be very morbid, but the fact is that if you don't give people a closure, people are still going to want to talk about it. I don't know, it's an interesting.
You know what's crazy is I looked it up on YouTube, Sad Satan gameplay, and recently, very recently, people have played it
Yeah.
on YouTube. Like some ordinary gamers played it 7 years ago, which is fine. But there's some people that I know that played it a year ago. I Show Speed played it a month ago. So it's still, I mean, I
Oh
think the
yeah, I see
fact that
it.
it came out in 2015 and people are still playing it and talking about it is, I think it's crazy. It's a big piece of legendary internet lore, regardless of how you want to cut it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the part where I was just very fascinated by it in terms of like, wow, like it just goes to show something could be so twisted and dark, but as long as it you don't give people that conclusion and you give people a reason to be controversial about it, it's gonna live on. And I think that's
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna die off. I think it's gonna be a continuous thing of like, will it what's the controversy? It's kind of like the Cecil Hotel and Eliza Lamb. Like people have talked about it all the time. Netflix did a whole thing on it, and I still see people like trying to figure out what's the controversy with that. And I think that's so
yeah,
it's a tragic thing. I don't know.
absolutely. No, I think it's until a game, until someone's able to. I don't think it'll ever die, but I think it'll die down because it is still pretty relevant even now.
Mm-hmm.
I think until someone comes out with something more shocking and is able to make it more viral, that this game will die. But until then, I think that it's still going to be extremely relevant to the point of where people are still making videos about it 6 days ago
I know, right? It's crazy.
in different languages. People are playing it in different languages. This person they uploaded it 6 days ago, and their whole title is in Arabic.
Oh God.
So it's now not only here, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide game that people are playing, which is just kind of messed up because it is, it's got CP in it, gore, all of these things that people don't need to see anyway, let alone everyone. It's not just,
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I think like in conclusion, we do think that Jamie is CK. We do think that like this is very disturbing. I think we're both under the same impression like we could not play we could not play this game.
No, no.
Um and I think that in general like the conclusion thought the conclude like the closing thoughts on this is that it's the sad reality is that it's going to live on for a very long time. I don't even think, but here's my other thing, my other question before we close this off. Do you think though that there is a game that could hit this level nowadays with like the discussions, what we've seen online, how like, there's so much content, there's so much consumption of media. Do you think people could ever like the CK thing, could there ever be another person to spin it off and make a game this disturbing viral again, like another game like this?
All they need is one big streamer to play it.
Yeah.
That's all they need. If they have an Aiden Ross, a Ludwig, probably not Pokimane because she's very PG, but someone like that. If they have someone who's very influential, especially to the younger generation nowadays, those big streamers who are pulling 10, 20,000 viewers per stream. If they play a game that is like that, I think everyone will play it.
Yeah.
So if the right, not the right person, but the right person gets offered the right amount of money, I think that they would absolutely push any game. I probably know CP though. I don't think they would delve into that. I think that that would have to be removed for it to be as big as Sad Satan was, because back then there wasn't as many people being very boisterous about things, and there
Yes.
wasn't so much culture and stuff like that. So I think that the only way there would be able to be a game that's bigger than Sad Satan would be pushed by a streamer and no CP. Everything else is fair game.
I think okay, so let me see. I think there was like a note. I had a note on here that like I don't know if this was like not in 2000, maybe 2017 or onward, but apparently like there were still people playing it. Like you said, there's still people playing it. And I think it did breach on Twitch. Like there was people playing it and there was with like the
Yes,
images.
yes, with the images. Yes, yes, I saw. I was I read that today. Yeah, there were streamers who downloaded it and played it and had no idea. They didn't even read about it or anything.
Yeah.
They played it and then there was just images of things that you can't unsee,
Yeah.
especially on Twitch.
Yeah. So I think you're right. Like I think to some degree with the way things are at this moment, it could very well like people again, people like to dabble into the unknown. And if you tell them no, they're going to do it anyway. Then I
Yep.
almost think that you're right. If there was like the right player at the, or like a right streamer at the right time or anything like that playing something, it could very well be a conversation of topic and shock factor that people could definitely talk about it on like multiple platforms. I could definitely see that being a possibility if they played something without researching it. Okay, so I'm going to close this off. Thank you so much for tuning in with this like topic with me. Oh my god, this was a very interesting topic. But yeah, I'll put your information in the description below, and I just want to tell everyone keep on being strange, and until next time.